Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 89. I said that so weird. It's episode number 89. So we're getting pretty close to the big 100, and I feel like I should do something about that. But I don't have any ideas yet, so I don't know how to commemorate. I don't know how to commemorate 100 episodes. I'm thinking about it. If you have any ideas, send them my way. Today I want to talk about hoarding, and I'll explain what that means in a minute, but a little bit of a life update because it's been several weeks since I gave one of those, and we still have, two new members of our household, but it's not really in the house, right? We bought Dad a little camper and set it up, and turns out campers are extremely high maintenance, and we did not know. We thought that we were finding a really simple solution that was cost effective so that Dad could have his own space. And the learning curve has been enormous. So if you're ever thinking, it would be really easy if I just went and lived in a camper. No, it won't. It won't be. It won't be. Don't do it. Just do something else. But Manflesh had to rewire the whole murder barn so that we could get like a 30 amp breakerage. I'm not going to go into all the details. It's just been a lot of work. But the good news is that it's working. And there is reliable electricity out there. The air conditioning works great. The refrigerator works. He has hot water. The water is good and clean. We built Naja a little pen at the back of the property so that she can roam around a little bit. And we have reached like an equilibrium, and daily life is much, much easier than it was when everything was still really new and getting settled. In fact, Dad just walked by my office walking Naja. They do that several times a day so that she can sniff things and look desperately for Bernie, whom she is very curious about but will not be permitted to meet. Bernie's my cat, if you're new here. If you're new here, you're probably really confused right now. Sorry about that. So life has settled. I was not sad to see the ass end of June. It was just so tumultuous. But we're getting to a place of equilibrium, as I predicted 5 days before I'm leaving for a couple of weeks to go to my second favorite place in the world, which is Ireland, for the Irish Aerial Dance Festival 15-year anniversary. I did the math today. I've gone to 10 out of those 15. If you're going to be joining us at the Irish Festival, here's one thing I have forgotten to mention in previous episodes where I talk about how to pack and how to survive the Irish Aerial Dance Festival, which is to bring a black sheet, because the sun goes to sleep at about 11 p.m. and it wakes up again like, oh my God, good morning, how are you? At 4 a.m. or something like that, way too early. So if you're sensitive to sunlight, which most of us are because we're programmed that way, bring a sheet to hang up on the window, some thumbtacks, something, something to block the sun, or an eye mask. I don't know. Those do not work for me. People are like, just bring an eye mask. Like, if it were that simple, then I would, but they don't work. They come off, and then that defeats the whole point. Anyway, artistically for this summer, I wanted to really sink my teeth into show creation. That didn't happen because life required other things of me. But the one thing that I have been able to do is practice flex pen, like dip pen calligraphy, because I am sending my patrons a gift. If you're in the Coven tier or higher, it's your word of the year in hand-drawn calligraphy, just so you can paste it up somewhere, because we're halfway through the year and sometimes we need a little reminder of what we set out to do, and hopefully that word is either still ringing true for you or you have decided to let it go. But if you don't know what I'm talking about and you are on my Patreon at the Coven tier or higher, check the inbox on the platform, because I have written to you. So I'm hoping to get those in the mail before I leave. It's been like the artistic, creative thing that I've been able to do so far this summer. So it's really been very meaningful to me to sit and practice something that has nothing to do with my other artistic disciplines. But it's beautiful and expressive, and I love it. And there's a big learning curve, and I'm not even very good at it. So it's going to look very, very homemade, but that's okay. It is in fact the point. So let's move on to the meat of this episode, which is about hoarding. So hoarding I'm using that to describe a state of being where you have an idea, something that is meaningful to you and that you think is a very, very good idea. It's usually artistic in nature, a project, a magnum opus, perhaps. And rather than doing anything about it, you just sit with it like a little precious, like a little golem in a cave. Very, very much the dragon sitting on the best ideas. If we stick with the dragon metaphor, so the dragon sits on the gold, right? He's got so much gold. We're like, this is my fucking gold. It's mine. It's delicious. Doesn't spend it, so it's not actually benefiting the dragon at all. But it gives the dragon the feeling that they could benefit from it, but they never will. Because as far as I know, there are no stories about dragons like building a castle or making a sound real estate investment with all of their hoards. No, that's what they do, is they just hoard. They just hoard. And I think it's very, very human to hoard your artistic ideas, especially those that feel most vulnerable and most authentic to you, because you want to do them justice. But it actually is kind of an insidious compulsion, because it makes you feel like you're accomplishing something. You can look at your gold that you're hoarding, your ideas that you're hoarding, and be like, look at what I've got. I've got so much. I'm so good. Like, it feels good. It makes you feel safe to look at the things that you're hoarding. And that can give us a false sense of forward momentum, because we're not actually doing anything about it. We're not making the work. We're not pursuing the idea. We're not investigating the idea. We're just sitting on top of it. And this is why some people have things that they dearly want to make, or at least they tell themselves that they dearly want to make them, and they don't get made, and they don't get made, and they don't get made. And then it's 20 years later, and they're not going to get made, because the function of that idea is no longer to be a piece of work that gets made. The function of the idea is to provide the stuck artist with a false sense of forward movement. So this is really similar to the premise of use the good china, right? Don't save the good china, use it during your daily life. It's really, really similar. But I wanted to point it out in this context because it also can be disguised as something else. Because it's very normal to have an idea that you need to gestate on for a while. Sometimes it needs to cook in your subconscious, sometimes for years. So how can you tell the difference between an idea that is just slowly cooking in your brain oven and the difference between that and hoarding an idea and denying yourself direct access to your best work, or what could be your best work? And maybe it's going to be a nightmare. I don't know. Bad work is also very important to make. It can't be avoided. So let's discuss this, right? How to tell the difference between an idea that's cooking or an idea that you're hoarding. All right. And it's got to take a little bit of finesse, because we have to be very investigative and brutally honest about the quality of the emotional response we have to the idea. Because if you are hoarding, when you think about your idea, you're going to have a big emotional response to it, right? It's loaded. And when an idea is just cooking and it's not quite ready to be for action to be taken on it yet, when you think about the idea, you don't have a big emotional reaction. It's kind of like the difference between intuition and imagination, right? If you have a really strong intuition about something, it arrives as a complete thought, right? It's a quiet voice. It's not emotionally loaded. It's just like, this is going to happen. Just that's it. It's a statement. One complete thought. That's intuition. Imagination is, if you don't touch this doorknob, your family is going to die. I'm being way dramatic, but I think you get the picture. So we can use knowing this difference between intuition and making shit up. One, intuition arrives as a complete thought. It's not emotionally loaded. It's just a statement, a very small, quiet voice stating something, declaring something, where if you're making stuff up and it's just your imagination going crazy, then it's a big voice. It has a big effect. It feels really loaded. You have a strong emotional response to it. If an idea is truly just cooking in your subconscious and it's not ready to be made yet, when you think of it, you just know, oh, that's not ready yet. And that's it. That's it. But if you've been hoarding that idea, you're going to have a strong emotional response to it. You're going to be able to identify fears around it. I mean, you can have fears around anything, but it will feel really emotionally loaded. Probably because you've been hoarding it for a while. And you want to do it justice, but even worse than doing it justice is not doing it justice and failing at it, and you can't face the possibility of that happening, which is why it's always a very useful exercise to ask ourselves, what is my fear protecting me from? Okay, what is my fear protecting me from? If you're hoarding, your fear is protecting you from the possibility of your own failure, even though your own failure is completely necessary. Not all the times, but sometimes. Okay, so let's assume that we can tell the difference now between an idea that's just cooking naturally or an idea that you've been hoarding. And you want to do something about it. You're like, well, this is obvious. I'm hoarding it. I'm being the dragon. I'm not spending my gold. I'm using it to warm my butt. And the way to stop hoarding is very, very simple. It is just taking action to that end. It doesn't have to be a big action. It just has to be something. And this is where we get into trouble, right? Because we prefer to wait until we feel a certain way before we take action. I'm going to say that again. We want to feel a certain way before we're going to take action on something. And we wait for that emotional state. And this is a fallacy because the thing that's going to change your emotional state is taking the action. The best example of this is confidence. People want to feel confident before they do a thing, right? So they wait. They wait for the confidence so that then they can do the thing. But the confidence doesn't come before, it comes after. It comes as a result of doing the thing. So we don't get to feel confident the first time we do a thing, usually, because we haven't earned it. Confidence has to be earned. It's a sense of knowing that you can do a thing, and of course you don't know if you can do it because you haven't done it yet. It's perfectly fine if you end up not being able to do it. You can just try it again. But the point is that waiting to feel confident before you take the action is just going to lead to more hoarding. And it's going to deny you access to what might be your most important work and prevent you from moving forward and evolving as an artist. So this felt really important to me to bring up and talk about today because it's so subversive. Like, artistic hoarding doesn't really look like anything from the outside. But since a gremlin is designed to prevent you from doing your work, right? What gremlins want is for you to not do your work, to not evolve as an artist, to not develop as a human being. That's what they want. That's what they're designed to do because they're keeping you safe. They're just doing way too good of a job. So even though hoarding looks like having wonderful artistic ideas, it's secretly a gremlin that's preventing you from doing anything because you don't want to fuck it up. And once you bring an idea out of the hoarding den, bring it out of the dragon cave, it's going to have faults. It's going to have holes. You're going to have to cut pieces off of it. You know, the cutting room floor is full of beloved darlings. And it's painful to do that to an idea that's really precious to you. So that's what we're avoiding when we're hoarding an idea. One, yeah, we want to do it justice, but also we don't want to see where it fails, where it's thin, where it's boring, where maybe we were wrong and our premise needs to be revisited. I get it. Those are all very thorny pancakes, but it's also part of the process. So to sum up, you can know if you're hoarding because if you think of an idea, you're going to have a big, triggery, emotional response to it. Doesn't mean you're going to fall down weeping in a ball, but it's going to feel really big emotionally. Whereas if you're just letting an idea cook, you're just going to be like, oh, well, that's not ready yet. That's fine. And sadly, the only way to stop hoarding is to actually do something about it and take some action in the direction of your idea and in service of it. That's it. That's it today. I'm looking at the clock. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, and the next one's probably will too because I have to record them all in like the next day. It's so fun. But thank you so much for being here and for letting me talk into your ear for almost 20 minutes. Extra special shout out to my patrons for supporting this work and so much more that I do. So thank you so much for standing with me. This podcast is powered by Patreon. And if you think that someone could use this message, please forward it along. I would love that. You can reach me on Instagram always at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. If you have requests for future episodes, I would love to hear them. And we'll probably take you up on it. Until next time, friends, use the good china, spend the dragon gold, and don't go back to sleep.